All right, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Malzberg with you, and joining me right now is Andy McCarthy, contributing editor for National Review, senior fellow at the National Review Institute, former federal prosecutor, and best-selling author. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right, boy, do I have questions for you, because to me, you are the ultimate source. Let me ask you, Donald Trump Jr., let's start with that. In your view, from what you know, the release of the emails yesterday that we saw, do you believe that Donald Trump Jr. has done anything illegal?
To my knowledge, he's not done anything in violation of the criminal law. To me, that's a very secondary issue, because when we're talking about executive power and a campaign, everybody who is a subordinate of the president is accountable to the president, as if it was the president's own actions. And in our constitutional system, the issue isn't whether a criminal law was violated. It's whether a person is fit for office and whether he's a candidate for abuse of power, and all that, I think, is now a much more serious issue and merits being looked at, which it will be.
Well, that, I mean, okay, because I read your great piece, which I was going to talk about secondary to this issue in National Review, all about that. Donald Trump and what the standard is, it shouldn't be, did he commit? But for Donald Trump Jr., are you telling me the same standard exists?
No, I just find Donald Trump Jr. to be irrelevant, other than what it tells us about the Trump campaign. I've never understood, Steve, and I'm not trying to be difficult here, but I spent a lot of my life prosecuting crime, and I spent a lot of it in national security. And, national security and things of that weight, I have learned up close and personal, are a lot more important than whether any particular case can be prosecuted and whether any particular person is guilty of a crime. When you're dealing with the power of the presidency, the most important thing is that we can be confident that the person who is wielding those awesome powers is fit to wield them. And I haven't made a judgment against President Trump about that. But I can't get whipped up about, what happens to Don Trump Jr., because to me it's almost irrelevant.
No, I'll grant you that in the context of what you're talking about on the grand scale, absolutely. But I got to get it out of you. We had the former vice presidential candidate, Senator Kaine, saying this is now perjury and treason, for crying out loud. So that's why I ask you: is Donald Trump?
No, look, I agree that violations of the criminal law haven't been proved, and there isn't any evidence of them that I see at this point. Now, what I would be troubled by, and actually, if I was in the Trump camp, I'd probably be skipping and dancing if I thought that my opposition was wringing its hands trying to figure out how to turn this into a campaign finance violation or a perjury violation. To me, that trivializes what happened here. So yes, look, throughout the whole time that we've talked about collusion, my question has always been collusion in what? Because, to the extent that we've had issues like, should there be a special counsel, which requires the commission of a crime before that's proper? Or should the attorney general recuse himself, which also requires a criminal investigation, which is supposed to be the predicate for whether you're disqualified or not? I think it's all those matters. It's very relevant whether a crime was committed, and I haven't seen one up until this point. I don't think anything we saw in those Trump emails makes out a crime. But to me, as an American assessing executive power and the potential abuse of it and the fitness of the incumbent, whether a crime has been committed is a secondary issue.
Right. Whether a crime has been committed by the President of the United States, because when
or one of his subordinates.
Or what?
Or one of his subordinates. Look, the theory of our government, Steve,
it's high crimes and misdemeanors that matters.
It's not just that. It's that all executive power is vested in one official, the president.
Right.
Which means that if the president's, the framers' idea was that if subordinates of the president committed misconduct, that misconduct was attributable to the president, which is why presidents fire people who abuse their authority. They do that because if they don't fire them, it's as if they're endorsing it. So I don't draw the hard line that some people are drawing between the president and his son. I simply don't.
Okay, but if this all happened with Donald Trump Jr. and you see no criminality, but there's more to it than that, as you pointed out, or could be, but he wasn't president at the time. Does that make it put it in a different category? He was just a candidate at the time.
Well, to go back to the criminal law, we have a concept known as straddle offenses. These are offenses that like occur before and after certain events or statutes of limitations and the like. And, I think that the thing with Russia is a continuing course of behavior, and I'd be looking at it that way if I were investigating it. So I'm not open to the idea, at least now, that the one email exchange we've seen is an open and shut matter that ought to be looked at in isolation on June 9th, 2016, and that it doesn't have any forward-looking or backward-looking importance. I just don't see it that way.
Okay, so you're saying, again, to close the book here, so to speak, on Donald Trump Jr., you're saying that the you don't see any criminality, any violation of the criminal code here. You don't see any evidence of it, but it doesn't mean it's over. Not yet is what you're adding.
Right, and I don't care about Donald Trump Jr. And I know people are going to try to get me to care about him. It ain't going to work.
No, I don't want you to care about him. I just wanted to know from you if he's, because like I said, when the former vice presidential candidate gets hysterical and says this is treason, and you have, as you pointed out about Donald Trump, when you have every commentator in the world weighing in and they all have their own legal opinion, I wanted to go to the source. That's why. Okay, so let's move on.
No, the former vice presidential candidate ran with a running mate who took money hand over fist from, all kinds of unsavory people, including Russia, and actually used her office to greenlight Russia's acquisition of major uranium assets of the United States. So, before I started throwing the word treason around and enemies of the United States, I'd sort of look at my own house before I.
Well, not only that, you want to talk about interference in elections. Jeffrey Lord was kind enough to, on his own, go find an interview that I did with Dick Morris in September of last year, where Morris told me, and shame on me for not doing it before Jeffrey Lord brought it back up. Morris told me that in the 90s, Bill Clinton and him worked on Boris Yeltsin's re-election campaign, and to the point where they would call Boris Yeltsin on the phone, tell him what kind of commercials to run, tell him what to say and what not to say. And not only is that in and of itself a problem, but that supposedly is what, according to Dick Morris, really ticked Putin off against the Clintons in the first place.
Yeah, well, look, I think all countries, all great powers at least, play this game of trying to impact the elections and governance of other countries, even as they're saying on the other side of their mouth that they would never, ever do such a thing. And there's a long history of Democrats canoodling with Russians.
Yep, Ted Kennedy. Yep.
In connection with American elections. So I'm not, what I care about, Steve, and what I think ultimately people who aren't going to hyper politicize this but care about our government, what I care about is making sure that the President of the United States has as his top priority the United States, and that when he acts, he's not acting on the basis of concern about blackmail or any of the like. And as a result of what we've seen up until now, I think that there's enough there that it warrants a serious investigation of the connection between Trump and Russia. And my hope is that what comes out of that investigation is that we can be confident that President Trump can go forward and govern. But I don't think it's a frivolous question to ask.
So you do believe, and that was going to be my point, because in your book, Faithless Execution, which you reference in your latest column at National Review, Trump, Russia, and the Misconduct of Public Men, again, you point out that it's not about whether Donald Trump or not, violated the criminal law. For a president, that doesn't matter. It comes down to high crimes and misdemeanors, which, the founders purposely, as you so eloquently expressed better than I'm doing, purposely put it in to be that way to protect us. And you just answered my next question, really, that you do feel that you see enough there that warrants this investigation, which is ongoing and has been ongoing for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm not all that interested in the politics of it, because I'm more, I don't ever feel like I'm comfortable giving people political advice. But if I were to do such a thing, Steve, it seems to me that this investigation is going to happen anyway. And now I think we can say it's going to happen, and it has been happening as it should be. So it just seems to me to be not only futile, but to make people look desperate to say we shouldn't go full steam ahead with this investigation. It seems to me it's more urgent if you care about, Trump's agenda. And I've always tried to separate the man from what we hope would be accomplished in his presidency. The most important thing that can happen here is that we get a swift resolution of everything that's been raised and get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, that would be good to get it over with and move on. Anyway, Andy, great to talk to you, sir. As always, thank you.
Great to talk to you.
And I still don't think I got him to care. I didn't get you to care about Donald Trump Jr. I know that, but I tried. Anyway, folks, stay connected. Make sure you could stay connected at newsmaxtv.com. We're on a whole bunch of news stations, AT&T, and of course, DirecTV. You can find out all the channels everywhere you can watch us at newsmaxtv.com, and of course the website. And there it is: DirecTV channel 349, AT&T UVerse channel 1220, and Verizon Fios channel 615. And if your cable station or network is not offering Newsmax TV, call them up and tell them you want Newsmax TV. Also, the website, newsmax.com.